Hello there, you're welcome back. I'm Charles Aite. Let's begin with matters regarding climate change because the Chief Executive of Oasis Capital, Matthew Boydoje, has called for some clear guidelines and regulations on green financing. As world leaders commit to more green projects for a safer climate, companies world over are repositioning product lines to meet the growing demand to go green. Matthew Boydoje has been explaining how best Ghana can attract investment for such projects.
We have a big debate that do we go green straight on, having regards to the fact that we still have energy challenge. I mean, it's only we seem to forget things so quickly. A few years ago, you were having the so-called doomsday, right? And at that, if you were in that situation, would you think of green or not green? All you need is that you need power to power your office. You need it to power your factory. Otherwise, Joy FM, you will not be on air. So long as you want to be on air, you really don't care at that material time. But I think it is important that as a country, we begin to think long term. Because I used to have a long debate with some of my Dutch partners who I started 10 years ago with. And the argument was that, oh, Matthew, you should make your house solar, do this. And I say, I have understood all that. But I'm telling you that the battle of going green will be settled by economics. So that is where the argument will be.
And how can that be settled?
It is being settled in the sense that if I look at my traditional source of power cost and the green version of power cost today, I think there are other neck or neck, or even the green finance, green power source, for instance, is becoming even cheaper. And as economic beings, if I find that there is a certain layer of benefit, I would go that direction. So maybe there could be some incentives from the advanced economy to make green financing more attractive, particularly in developing countries where we are battling with a different challenge. And the different challenge is that if the person has not eaten, you don't talk to somebody who has not eaten about soap opera. There are two different needs, right? So we need funding to develop. And you have the funding, so you can layer that as part of the structure that will compel us to get to know that. Because we should also not work the same 100 years to develop. We can circumvent some of the processes to develop faster because the world today is more integrated. And I think we have seen that in the mobile telephony environment, that Africa really developed faster than any other economies from the time we started and where we are today. I think Africa is quite well advanced in mobile money and other interplay within the mobile telephony, mainly because we didn't have the traditional telephone. I'm sure if we had a traditional telephone widespread, the speed with which mobile telephone had developed in the continent wouldn't have been the same. I think that
You take a look at what's happening. Carl Bank, for instance, recently was able to secure some $20 million US, if I'm correct, to help facilitate green finance projects. But the question remains: businesses, are they really up to the task of utilizing green finance? Because there must be a change in terms of the product lines that could feed these green financing projects. But we're not seeing much of them in town.
Why not? Because if I have a manufacturing plant, I mean ANC, have you been to ANC Mall? Just here. Have you seen that they have loaded a lot of panels in there? Do you think that they just decided to do that? One, it is underlaid by maybe proper structure of financing. The economics are better, reliability is better. So now
that's ANC. We're talking about the several thousands of
I'm giving you an example of a private initiative that tells you that if we are well informed and we are given the opportunity of access to funding, a lot more will be willing to go that direction.
And is that the case now?
It's not the case now because perhaps of limited knowledge.
Well, from climate change, let's now move to a development story. As expected, inflation, which is the average change in price of goods and services, shot up by 0.4% to 11% in October. Now, this was triggered by increase in transport inflation as a result of the rise in fuel prices. Indeed, it was actually the item with the highest contribution to the increase in inflation last month. However, the contribution of food inflation to the overall inflation slowed down. Here is the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobina-Ene, explaining the rationale behind the increase in inflation.
From a non-food perspective, on a trend basis, we have, for the second month in a row, see a divergence between food and non-food inflation. So unlike year-on-year food and non-food inflation, where we've seen a convergence, we've seen a divergence of about 1.6 percentage points between non-food inflation and food inflation, with non-food inflation dominating with 1.3% and food inflation standing at negative 0.3%. Between imported items and locally produced items, we continue to see a narrowing between locally produced items and imported items, with the gap currently standing at 3.0 percentage points relative to the 3.4 that was recorded for the month of September 2021, with locally produced items standing at 11.1%, indicating a drop of about 0.4 percentage point, and imported items standing at 8.8%, indicating an increase up from 8.1% that was recorded for the month of September 2021. From a regional perspective, for the third time in a row, we see food inflation soaring in the northern part of the country, specifically with Upper West recording food inflation of 27.7%, followed by Northern Region 21.5%, with Greater Accra food inflation standing at 5.5%. From a non-food perspective, we see Upper West recording 11.3% inflation and Northern 10.2% inflation. Given these two rates for food and non-food inflation in both Upper West and Northern Region, it has culminated in these two regions recording the highest rate of overall inflation, with Upper West recording 19.2%, followed by 14.9% for Northern Region, and in third, East Ashanti Region and Greater Accra comes forth with 12.3%. From the perspective that Upper West recorded the highest rate of inflation for both food and non-food and overall inflation, we narrow down on the drivers of inflation for Upper West region on a year-on-year basis and also from a food perspective. Keeping in mind that overall inflation for Upper West region stood at 19.2%, within the domains, that is the divisions for computing CPI and rate of inflation, we did identify alcoholic beverages, tobacco, and narcotics having the highest rate of inflation of 28.1%, but keeping in mind that it's food and non-alcoholic beverages that has the relatively highest weight of 0.6% and closing up with a rate of inflation of 27.7%.
That was the government statistician there, Professor Samuel Kobina-Ene. We shall subject this to much scrutiny and of course, much analysis in our subsequent bulletin. But let's now turn into the area of beverages, because the beverage market in Ghana is worth 3.85 billion cedis, of which domestic production dominates with 92% of the total market size. That's according to local research firm Thermos Advisory. The report, which sampled consumers in Accra, Kumasi, and Sekedi Takoradi, indicated that demand for beverage consumption has shot up as most consumers drink 3 to 5 times each and every week. According to the results, Kumasi came first as a city with the highest consumption of beverages, both non-alcoholic and alcoholic. Also, Malta Guinness is the most consumed soft drink in Ghana today, as 21% of consumers prefer it to other non-alcoholic beverages. Anita Nkrumah is the head of research and business development at Thermos Advisory.
The size of the beverage market keeps expanding and is expected to grow rapidly year on year going forward. Despite the impact of COVID-19 on the Ghanaian economy last year, the number of beverage products consumed slightly outpaced that of 2019. According to the results, Kumasi came first as the city with the highest consumption of beverages, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. Also, Malta Guinness is the most consumed soft drink in Ghana, followed by Coke. Anita Nkrumah is the head of research and business development at Thermos Advisory.
In terms of market size, it's estimated that the beverage market is worth about 3.8 billion Ghana cedis. And these estimates were put together based on information on the number of bottles produced as well as the total value of imports that come into the country. And it's quite interesting. I think as Adam was speaking, he did mention that we saw a number of local players coming in onto the scene. So we wanted to investigate this to see what the situation is like. And it turns out that about 92% of production is from domestic production, leaving about 8% coming from outside the country, which is in the form of imports of finished beverage products.
Anita Nkrumah further said the advent of the African Continental Free Trade Area will create more opportunities for existing beverage firms to export to other markets. This is because the bottlenecks impeding exports to other countries have been removed.
With AFTA, it presents several opportunities. Of course, all of it is based on its implementation going on smoothly. For a lot of the beverage companies that we spoke to, they anticipate that there is going to a big weight is going to be taken off their shoulder when it comes to documentation. So now, as it stands, when you go to one African country to another African country to do business, you have to go through different types of documentation, and it makes the process difficult. So it takes you so long to get into, say, Togo, that it's not attractive to want to get into another African country. So documentation is one of the key ways that they are going to benefit when it comes to doing business, and because with AFTA, they are going to have very standardized documentation when it comes to the entry points across these African countries.
The report provides comprehensive insights on the alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverage market to guide future investments and foster effective decision-making within the retail space. 2,300 consumers were interviewed.
You're still watching The Marketplace. Let's move on to other stories. As the world marks Entrepreneurship Week, we'll take a look at how entrepreneurship is setting Ghana's apparel industry as one of the most competitive in the world. I visited the production line of Alfie Designs, where its young CEO, Ajodide Asare, is employing problem-solving models to appeal to an international market. Here's more. The coronavirus pandemic may have choked global supply chains into recession, but not for Ghana's apparel industry. Ajodide Asare is CEO of Alfie Designs, an apparel company bursting its seams thanks to the pandemic.
During COVID, things just exploded. It exploded. We grew from 160 workers to 450. We're running 3 shifts at a time. Sometimes we were working 7 days a week. And for us, it was great because then we expanded. Our efficiency went so high. We could now effectively compete with our Asian counterparts in production because of our efficiency level of doing the same thing over and over and over again, being good at it. And so I would say COVID was a blessing for us. And not only that, for our workers and anybody who came to work here had the opportunity to make some money whilst things looked very bad and almost desolate. This was during the COVID times. The businesses that were afloat really helped because then we had to provide lunch because they had made the markets close, and so caterers were working again. Transports were, because we had to get transports to pick people and take them home. So then people didn't have to just sit at home. We got people working. So it was the whole supply chain was filled. Not only us, but then caterers, even the market women we had to call to come sell to the caterer to come. Always had something going and continued till this year, March, which was really good. So I would say that COVID was great, and the intervention by the government to make everything made in Ghana was a major factor for us.
As a child, when she decided to take her mother's business to the next level. Thanks to an exposure to the US Yali program, Dede returned home to transform a family business into a global brand. With over 200 workers, the business model Dede has for Alfie Designs is community-centered.
In 2008, I had the opportunity to come and just watch her work and then I fell in love with the work. And so after I was supposed to have just been around for a short period, and then I fell in love with the work, and I said, no, how can I make this better? How can I build upon this marvelous legacy and very good business that can develop into something not just for the family, but then also for the community and then the economy of Ghana. So from 2008, I joined my mom fully, and then we started. So at that time, there were 30 workers, and we were doing private labels here and there, doing trade shows, and then we had a retail outlet. So then I came up and said, okay, for my studies and everything, we could start off with more branching, and then even at a point we went into franchising. Well, and we did it a soft version where people could still take on the Alfie brand name, but and pick from us, and then also sell to their clients and still have the good quality sewing out there. And so that's how it started, and then bit by bit we were growing. We moved from 30, then we went to 70, then we went to 90, and then we're doing uniforms for Ministry of Education for the regions, and that was, I think that was a taste of mass production for me. In 2015, I applied for YALI, Mandela Fellowship with the U.S. State Department, and I got chosen. I picked, and I went to University of Texas, Macomb Business School, and that's where that happened, the business and the entrepreneurship. That's where everything started. So after my fellowship, I came back full force. It's like I hit the ground running. And then we had a business competition where the business plan got picked, and I was one of the best 10 in the whole of about 1,050,000 all over Africa, and 50 for the entrepreneurship and business plan. And then we started, and I've always wanted to give back to the society. So then I said, we'll start a school to train people, because we want to do mass production and train them on the line system. So we started the school ending of 2016 when I came back from the fellowship, and was for free. We didn't charge anybody. We needed the help and the boost to gain skills that, okay, we don't just train and leave you to go, but then you get opportunities to be employed. If not in this factory, but other factories around.
So the whole model has been that of a community-focused, model of the community.
Yes, I'm more a community-based person, how to give back to the society, and that has been my passion.
The apparel industry employs more than 6,000 Ghanaians and exports about $30 million worth of products annually, mainly to Europe. But for now, there is huge demand from the East. As the data tells me, supply chain disruptions in China due to COVID-19 lockdowns have let Ghana overtake the Asian market when it comes to mass production.
Yeah, or China. Why not Ghana? You never know. It will work, because they were able to pull it through during COVID, whilst other countries didn't have PPEs. They were able to provide for themselves. So I think that has been the good thing about the exports. And then for us that we're already doing exports, because of the lockdowns, most of our clients had to hold off on their orders because they couldn't really sell or do anything because everybody was stuck at home. But then now it's actually made new clients look to us. So it's a good, it's a yin and yang situation. It works out either way. Yeah.
Amid the impact of COVID-19, Ghana's clothing and apparel sector seems to be picking up when it comes to its mass production lines, as well as the prospects for exports into the European market. Despite all these things, some challenges still persist, but entrepreneurs like Dede are confident of surmounting these problems. Though it may look promising, this industry is burdened with challenges. So much so that players are doubtful of a full competitive takeoff at the continental free trade market.
If I'm paying prices for water bill and my electricity at a very high cost, that means my cost of production will be higher. That means that even though we have the free trade in Africa, and Ethiopia or Kenya or Rwanda, their government has subsidized it for them, everybody else will go to them. So Nigeria will go and buy from Rwanda and Kenya instead of buying from their neighbor Ghana because I'm expensive. So those are some of the things that really, and then also the tax system as well, and then even putting things digital, how to even get all those things in place. I feel that just those things, when they're fine-tuned, will be there because our counterparts in the Eastern Africa are doing it. And so I feel that if we have that, it really will help.
As the world celebrates Global Entrepreneurship Week, business-minded innovators like Ajodede Asare have one secret: remaining true to your dreams and impacting society through problem solving.
A great entrepreneur is somebody who is solving a problem, and not just an existing problem, a future problem. So your product or whatever you are doing, what is this going to solve today, tomorrow, and the next 10 years? A great example is iPhone. They wanted to give you the computer experience in the palm of your hand. And every time they have built upon that experience and that expectation that now everybody wants to have an iPhone. And so whatever you plan on doing, I would say that think about it. You are solving a problem, but this problem, of course, when you start, somebody else will come into it. So how do I keep on solving the same problem in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? That will still make me the leader in my sphere, or be the one to pinpoint to others what to do to also help solve the problem as well.
The prospects are bright for Ghana's apparel industry. A large-scale mass production targeting precision and quality could set Ghana as the next economic hub for a booming and bullish apparel economy.
So right now we are doing scrubs.
All right.
Medical scrubs for clients in the UK.
Okay.
And so this is what you are seeing, the shades of blue, purples, and wines, and it's going to the UK. And this is because of the initiative that we had.
All right.
With the president providing everything in-house. So we saw it.
Impressive.
And then they decided to try us out. And so that's what brought about this order.
So in all, how many workers are we looking at?
Overall, we are looking at 200 workers with helpers and everything. 200 workers.
That's great.
Yes.
So how do you ensure the precision and the consistency in the mass production?
Okay, we have inline checkers, and then we have AQL, quality control as well, and then we have at the end of every production cycle from the line, then we have expert quality control who come and look at it. But usually most of it is checked in line, and because you are doing just one thing, you become good at it. So if you are sewing pockets, you become very good at sewing the pockets.
Exactly.
That's the tendency of making a mistake is really small to none. Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
So today I've been to the site. I've seen the massive things that you're doing, but I'm curious to find out your dream for the next 5 years.
Oh, my dream for the next 5 years is to have a 10,000 seater factory that we are producing for the whole of Africa. Actually, I want to put Ghana on the map for the next destination for mass production.
That's nice.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, that if people don't produce in China, the next place they produce is Ghana. Yes.
That's lovely.
Yes.
So we hope to be here in the next 5 years to see the massive things that you're doing.
We are praying.
But any word out there to our viewers, entrepreneurs, prospective ones who would want to follow your footsteps?
Follow your dreams, I would say, and don't give up. There will be lots of hurdles ahead, but don't give up. Believe in yourself and surround yourself with good people who encourage you, who push you forward, and always who point you out to the right opportunities all the time. And first of all, look inside. The strength is from inside. If your inner strength is there, trust me, and also believe in God. God is the number one.
Didier, we're so grateful to you join us, and that's how we end this edition of AM Business. Charles Ayete reporting for JoyNews. A look into Ghana's apparel industry with Didier there. That's, of course, moving on to other stories. The chief executive of Universal Motors Limited, Subi Akkad, is urging automobile companies in Ghana to adapt quickly to the changing world. According to him, the automobile industry is moving to the electrification of vehicles, and Ghana can keep up when industrialization is boosted. He said this at the launch of the 7th Ghana CEO Network Business Cocktail, of which we have more in this report.
Electrification is a strategy used by automakers to shift the vehicle from mechanical to electrical power. Research shows that gasoline and diesel internal engines will phase out by 2030. Chief Executive of Universal Motors Limited, Subhid Akkad, believes that for Ghana to keep up with the rest of the world, it needs to boost industrialization.
Authorized importers in Ghana are bringing cars that are made for Africa, made for Ghana, for the weather, for the roads, for the dust, for the type of fuel that we have. It does not mean that this is where we are stopping. We need to improve on the quality of food, fuel that we have. We need to improve of many things. And based on that, the world is moving very fast as well towards electrification. We need to be ready for that as well. Suddenly we will see there are more electric cars in the world than combustion cars. So we have to be ready for that as well.
Meanwhile, Chief Executive of Qualis Group, Nana Kwame Bediako, emphasized the role of digitization in creating an industrialized economy.
Until that Ghanaians begin to industrialize what they own, they will forever have to import everything coming from outside. Now, talking about digitization, it's also part of industrialization. It's just a point of commercializing technology. That's all it is. So the industrial part of technology would be us having plants that would assemble computers, mobile phones, and then would have learners in the technology sector that will create apps and build softwares. So that would be how the digitization platform will be built.
The 7th Ghana CEO Network Business Cocktail has been launched. Founder of CEO Network Ghana, Ernest Digraf-Tejui, disclosed that this year's summit is a collaboration with the police to explore future partnerships between companies and the police.
The theme for the night is police leadership challenges in a changing world. We've come to an era where the CEOs believe that it is time we give attention to this malaise where anybody can get up and do whatever the person likes.
And of course, that's how we draw the curtains on this edition of The Marketplace. I'm Charles Aite. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. We're grateful that you could join us. Please make a day with us tomorrow once again at 1 p.m. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our programs.